a gross state product of over 48 trillion naira in 2025, comparable in PPP terms to about 15 African countries. Nigeria's primary commercial nerve center, the country's most concentrated market activity, and its more active private sector ecosystem, and a growing base of industrial and service enterprise. So I can therefore tell you that Lagos is on its own trajectory alongside other great cities in Africa. To get here, this administration planned ahead with the Lagos State Development Plan 2022 to 2053, our 30-year blueprint structured around 4 dimensions: human capital development, economic development, renewal of infrastructure, and social development, and of course, sustainable environment. The Lagos State Development Plan emphasized Lagos as a world-class city. It is a generational document, a long-term horizon designed to bind successful administrations to coherent trajectory. And when Zain was asking the Honorable Commissioner that what separates Lagos, why is Lagos that unique? That is it. Because we look at generational document, long-term document that transcends administrations so that we are coherent in what we do. So with that horizon, this administration delivers the Teams Plus agenda. I'm sure a lot of us know what that means, where the T stands for traffic and transportation management, the H stands for health, and so on and so forth. And this Teams Plus agenda now expresses itself with the industrial expression in the Lagos State Industrial Policy 2025 to 2030. This policy operationalized the industrial component of the Lagos State Development Plan. And this industrial policy rests on 6 mutually reinforcing pillars. 2 of those pillars define the agenda for this role. Pillar 4 is infrastructure for industrial development, cluster and spatial industrial development, and Pillar 6 is green and inclusive industrialization, which is the conscience of that policy. The Lagos State Development Plan 2052 sets the horizon, and then the team's agenda sets the operational discipline, and of course, the industrial policy sets the industrial pathway. So it's a 5-year discipline that is serving a generation ambition. We therefore know that Lagos must stand at that threshold. So let me bring this a bit closer to the work itself. We know that we are designing a state that will exist for a long time. We want to build a state that will last. And therefore, we are governing, one, in real time. We know it's always under load and pressure, but we cannot switch off while we are improving it. So Lagos will land its passengers, its goods and the capital at the Lekki Epe International Airport, a project that will give the state a second international gateway, and in doing so, rebalance the entire logistic geography of West Africa. We have sat with the planners, we've walked the perimeter of that land, and I know that the work is real and the timeline is moving. Lagos will move its people on the metro line that we are building. That is the blue line and the red line, and of course, the ongoing green line. All these rail lines will be connected to bus terminals and ferries, which will reshape the way ordinary Lagosians experience their city. So the plan is for Lagos to industrialize with precision. And I'm happy that you've seen the last MISO, which is the Lagos State Medical Innovation and Industrial Zone, becomes the cluster on which our pharmaceutical and medical technology future will be built. The revitalization of our industrial estates in Ikeja, Apapa, Ilupeju, will return the productive art of this city to its full capacity. The Lekki Free Trade Zones and the Lagos Free Zones, between them, give us export-ready production architecture that this continent will demand for the next generation. So tying all this together is a smart city and digital infrastructure program. The Lagos we are building will be physical, will be intelligent, will be responsive, and must continually learn from itself. So these are real tangible undertakings. They are the work that have started, and people must and will see the impact. All of these that I've said matters because the rule of the game has changed. The African Continental Free Trade Area is the most consequential economic reform on the continent since independence for most of the countries. It will reward the territories that have done the work of producing competitively, moving goods efficiently, and meeting standards at scale. The territories without that discipline will face intensified importation competition. So under this free trade agreement, the city that builds a productive base, that holds the standard, that operates this at scale, will win. Lagos must be that city. So we know that the next decade of value in Lagos is not about the individual assets. It is the connective tissue. The integration is what we want to invest in. So to the developers and operators in this room, the firms that build airports, that run ports, that lay rails, and bring the design intelligence on which all this depend, I can confirm to you that our state is the pipeline where we have the deep commitment to make sure that our state is built to last. So I invite you to come and build with us. And to the sovereign wealth funds, development financial institutions, the transactions that you require, the discipline of bankability, the structures of co-investment are present in this state and improving its cycle. So come and finance with us. To the multilateral partners, the institutions whose mandates align with the work of urban transformation and inclusive industrialization, Lagos offers you a partnership that will deliver. Come and convene with us. And to the captains of industry, the name that built the commercial economy of this country, the next phase of that economy will be written in Lagos. Therefore, come and scale with us. To our brothers from the other states in Nigeria and to the visiting heads of government, the relationship forged in this room are the relationship that will define African Economic Cooperation in this generation. We therefore invite you to come and partner with us. And to people in the diaspora, the diplomatic corps, whose country have stood with Nigeria across the long arc of our development, Lagos is open. Our door is clearly wide open. So come and let's take it further. This is the first continental investment summit that will be taking place around this country. So Lagos intends to be the 21st century industrial hub of Africa, the city against which subnational industrialization on this continent must be measured. That ambition is anchored in a program of work that this administration has set in motion, and that is the architecture of what I've spoken about, the Lagos State Development Plan 2022 to 2052, the team's agenda, and of course, the Lagos State Industrial Policy 2025 to 2030. All this pulled together will deliver a concise industrialization, mobility, financing for our state. The second is an invitation. That is to everyone in this room and those outside looking at us. And to those watching from beyond, the door of our state is wide open. Build with us, finance with us, convene with us, partner with us, scale with us. The city that can absorb your ambition is here, and it is ready, and that is Lagos. And the third is the note I will hold you with you for the longest. The work of building cities, we all know, is generational. It outlasts cycles, it outlasts administrations, it allows the name of those of us privileged enough to stand at its drawings today. The pact this room makes over the next 2 days is one that must carry forward through every phase of Lagos' trajectory until the city we are building is the city that we have promised. A system or a state at this scale cannot and should not be financed from the public purse alone. The state's role is the part only a state can do. That is planned beyond any single administration, set stable rules and uphold them, take the early risk and attract capital and be a predictable partner. So we are asking those partners to come. Let's work together. Lagos is committed. To that work, we are again committed. To that work, this generation and generation coming will follow, and that's how we'll be measured. So let us build together for us to keep growing Lagos. I thank you very much.
Another round of applause, please, for Dr. Kadri Obafemi Hamzat, Deputy Governor of Lagos State. We are also honored to have the Governor of Lagos State join us this morning. Sir, we've had an amazing day yesterday, and today is no exception. Now, it is with such interest we listen to the Deputy Governor talk about telling the investors to come and build with us, scale with us, and essentially win with us. The program, if you read through the program, there were so many, it's an interesting thing. I recommend that you read the program because there's a lot of interesting things in there, and also the ability to reach out and connect post this conference with the organizers and with Lagos State government. There was a big line there that said, this is where ambition meets structure. Capital rarely moves on just excitement alone. It always moves when risk, timing, and structure begin to align. And I think that is what I'm interpreting from the opening remarks from our dear Deputy Governor there. What are we going to be talking about? Building the cities of the future is what we are talking about. And Lagos has already started. You heard about the Lekki-Ekpe International Airport, 3 metro rails, the 4th mainland bridge, a medical park, public-private partnerships, waterway activation, embedded power initiatives, industrial corridors, and so much more that we can build together. So let's get into it. Our first panel. I want you to please welcome your moderator. She's a very well-known face here in Nigeria. If you switch your televisions on a Saturday, you'll see her on Arise on the business program. Please welcome your moderator, Mrs. Rolake Akinkugbe Filani.
Thank you very much, Mark. Good morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Just standing on all established protocols. It's great to be here. I'm going to invite all our panelists to be seated on the stage, after which we'll take the short video clip that was meant to play earlier. First, I'd like to invite the Honorable Commissioner for Health of Lagos State, Professor Akinke Abayomi. Please give him a round of applause as he comes on. Then I'd like to invite the Chairman of the Nigeria Sovereign Investment Authority, Mr. Olusegun Ogunsanya. A round of applause for him. Then we have Mr. Vivek Aswani, Executive Director, Tolaram. A round of applause. And we have Mr. James Oludele Clinton, the Managing Director of EV Mass Transport Solutions. A round of applause for him as well. And then last but by no means least, Dr. Valentine Obi, founder and group CEO, eTransact Group. A round of applause for our distinguished panelists. Thank you very much. So please turn your attention to the screens as we... Okay. All right, I think we'll just move on with the session, I've been told. So the topic of discussion today is building the city of the future. So instead of starting with statistics, I wanted to paint a bit of a picture to set the context, which I think many of you who reside here in Lagos will recognize. So picture an ordinary Lagos morning. A worker in Ikorodu needs to get to a job on the island. She's not in Ikorodu by choice. She's there because that is where housing she can afford exists. Now, the island where the jobs are is also where the rents are. And so every morning, millions of Lagosians make a journey that is not just a commute, but the daily reality of where affordable housing and economic opportunity have never quite managed to locate themselves in the same place. Now, as she approaches her transport location, there's a footbridge. You know, the pedestrian bridges that go from one side of the road to the other. Engineered, funded, and built by the government. But she's trying to catch the danfo on the other side of the road. These are the small commuter buses. And the danfo is already pulling away. So the commuter makes a quick calculation. Since the shortest distance between 2 points is a straight line, do I go on the footbridge or do I dart across the road? Now, to many of us driving our cars, it might seem like irrational behavior to have this commuter cross the road. But actually, I say it's not irrational behavior. It's a rational response to a city growing faster than many infrastructure programs can fully keep pace with. And it tells us something very important, that Lagos's people are moving already at the speed this city needs to move. Now, if you extend that scene and imagine a Lagos where integrated industrial ecosystems like the Lagos Free Zone and the Deep Sea Port has spent decades building are the anchors around which affordable housing, transit corridors, and community infrastructure are deliberately collated. Where the worker stays is in Ikorodu because Ikorodu itself has become a node of economic activity connected by fast, reliable transport. It is not a distant vision. We have the proof of concept already here operating in Lagos at scale. And why this matters is because by 2050, Lagos's population is projected to exceed 32 million. Greater than 3 times, 10 times than New York or Los Angeles. And so that scale of growth is why we need to build the city of the future. And this is what this conversation is about. So I'd like to direct the first question to the Honorable Commissioner for Health, Professor Akinyabayomi. And it's really that COVID-19 exposed for some cities around Africa and the continent that health infrastructure is part of the fabric of any thriving megacity. So the first question is, how do you make the case that investment in health infrastructure in somewhere like Lagos actually makes commercial and developmental sense?
So thank you very much, Rolake. So what Lagos is trying to do, and I think you've built the picture of a city that's growing almost faster than we can keep up with. And so as a health sector, we have to make sure that we have the appropriate infrastructure, but more importantly, the human resources for health. Now, as fast as we make our doctors, they leave the country. Almost 50% of our doctors and medical professionals leave. So we're looking inwards to look at the drivers and the forces that would encourage them to stay back in Lagos or Nigeria. So Lagos is embarking on what's called the healthcare financing reforms. Because the drivers of brain drain and the reluctance of those that have drained to come back is the economic reality around healthcare delivery. And if you want to make Lagos as green as London, New York, Dubai, or South Africa, then we've got to do something different. So the healthcare financing reform looks at multiple parameters. It's infrastructure, it's welfare, but at the bottom, at the end of the day, it's the economic reality of your profession. And so we're introducing what's called the executive order. The executive order of the health care financial reform is the domestication of the National Health Insurance Act Authority, which stipulates that all Nigerians now must carry some form of health insurance. So Lagos, that was released in 2022. Lagos domesticated that in 2024. The governor released the executive order, and we're the only state that has actually domesticated that initiative. Now for Lagosians, in the next couple of months, it's going to be mandatory for you to own some form of health insurance. So what does that do to you? First of all, we know that 77% of Nigerians pay for healthcare out of pocket. That for us is a no-no. You can't go anywhere in the world and start bringing out cash on the table and things like that. You put an insurance card when you're actually trying to seek health. So the process we're going through now is to transform Lagosians into the culture of health insurance. Now that's going to inject a huge amount of money into the sector. It will suddenly start. So what you have now there is addressing demand. How do you buy health? If you have a card in your pocket that allows you to buy health, then the economists will tell you that supply follows demand. But we're not just doing demand, we're actually going neck and neck with demand on the supply side. The government is building modern medical infrastructure across the state at primary, secondary, and tertiary. We're using low carbon footprint designs. We're stimulating the private sector. We're going into multiple PPPs. So we're addressing the two ends of the spectrum. We're trying to achieve universal healthcare coverage and also make Lagos the destination for medical tourism. But at the bottom of all that is, how do you pay for health?
Thank you very much. And I think that really brings us to a very important point around the connection between healthcare infrastructure, insurance, and payments and financial technology. So I'd like to come now to Dr. Valentine Obi. You know, the cities of the future, we don't just build them on concrete and steel. We actually need to build them on financial services. So in your mind, what does the future of a city built on solid digital infrastructure look like? And what does it look like today in Lagos, and what are the possibilities?
Thank you very much. Indeed, we can see already that the state is actually dotting the I's properly. And I'll say this. The cities that will lead in the 21st century have three major assets, I would say. And one of them is the physical infrastructure, which is talking about the roads, the bridges, the healthcare that we're talking about, and all that. And this moves people and good, right? The second, of course, is the digital infrastructure layer, which we're talking about, the broadband, all the stuff, the cloud infrastructures, and all the stuff. And yesterday, the governor even told us he was able to launch a new data center. Now, these are infrastructure, or this asset moves information. Then come to the payment. We're talking about the right banking infrastructure, the payment system, the credit system. The commissioner just talked about, the insurance part of it. Now, any city that we're going to lead in the 21st century will really have these three assets properly integrated to make sure it happens. The physical infrastructure is indeed, you must have it, because that is the basis, the critical component, foundation for economic growth. And by the time we see what the state is already doing, what I believe we're doing here is how to scale what the government is already doing. Because in terms of physical infrastructure, the state is right on it. In terms of digital technology, the state is already doing quite a lot with that. And in terms of payment system, the country is already with the right technologies to drive this. So I think and I believe that this is what is required for the state to do, and the state is really making its effort to make sure this thing happens.
So do you, if I may come back, do you envisage a scenario where the commuter, I gave an analogy around in terms of their daily experience, Lagos, has one single payment channel for accessing infrastructure services, from social infrastructure to physical and transport infrastructure in a mega city like Lagos?
Yes, I do. And I believe that it must be something that have to be in the agenda of the state. If we are having proper digital identity for the citizens in the state. So that same identity can be linked properly to a system that enables you to be able to take care of anything that you wanted to do in this country, in the state, either paying for your insurance, either commuting, either, even paying for school fees. But also interesting to know this, that, we talk about commuting. Commuting is great, but in the cities of the future, or historically, cities are built around commuting. In the 21st century, it's truly not going to be about commuting, but about connectivity. Because what is going to happen is, at least we know today, that the workplace is no longer tied to a physical location. So people are not going to actually be commuting that much. People can stay right where they are and do a lot of quality stuff. Which means if our digital connectivity is in place, many of the commuting challenges also will be solved. But to answer your question, I believe that that can happen. You have one digital identity which you can use for all kinds of payment within the
Fantastic. And I'll come back to you to ask what the regulatory enablers for that might be. But let me come now to Mr. James Oludele Clinton. In a city that's rapidly expanding from a demographic perspective, we cannot ignore the impact of climate change and carbon emissions as we build out our infrastructure. And you work in the mass transit space, specifically in the EV space. So what role does e-mobility play in the future of a city like Lagos?
Thank you. So if you allow me, I'll go back a bit. I'll start from the commuter that you described, who, as it is, altogether spend currently about 6 trillion, which today is not captured in any way.
6 trillion across the Lagos population?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Which is all cash. Okay. And she spends all of that money, none of it is captured. What we need for that commuter for the future in the system we want to build is to go electric. I said earlier to someone that the electric vehicle is actually an electric device on wheels, and it allows you to capture a lot of data, which is why countries like China and India, across the strata, whether it's the electric vehicle, it's the electric tricycle, the motorcycle, all forms of mobility, they're taking it electric. Enhances your payment solution, allows you to gather data on who lives from one point to the other point, integrates your payment, and at the end of the day, achieves that one-stop payment solution that you are looking for.
Okay, so with the electric mobility, given the scale of Lagos, we have roughly 25 million people. In terms of the infrastructure build-out that needs to power that, and giving the electricity landscape, what is the strategy and plan for making that method of transportation sustainable and commercially viable?
Okay, so we'll go back to how has it been done?
Yes.
How has China, how has India done it? One thing that happens with the electric mobility is that your charging is usually tied to a particular charging form or a swap system, which then means you always have to come back. With data, it makes it easier for you to get funding because now the financial providers understand that this particular charging pile, would serve 30 vehicles on a regular. And we fund it, we have the regulatory backing from the state, we will get our money back. If you were to charge, the state today has about 1 million vehicles. If you were to charge 250,000 of that, you probably need about 100 megawatts of power. Once that 100 megawatts is deployed, the OEM selling the vehicles would easily sell the vehicles because today they are $8,000 brand new EV vehicles, which is better, way better than the 8,000 is 12 million naira, which is way better than the 16 million naira tokumbo that will hurt the environment, hurt our health, and will give you so much problems. So I do believe that it's all about creating. So I'll take one step. Prof talked about the executive order on health. We probably need to have an executive order on e-mobility, which says that in the next 5 years, Lagos must transit from fossil fuel to electric, and this is the structure.
Fantastic.
And with the SCRAMPS program, which is a fantastic urban planning solution, you could actually site charging locations today and plan it out that these are swap stations, these are power stations, these are master charging stations powered by solar and CNG, these are LPG. You know, it's about the structure, but that is the future of Lagos.
Thank you very much. Already, Mr. Governor and Deputy Governor, we're giving you some takeaways. But you know, and I'm sure it's music to your ears, Professor Abayomi, especially from the health perspective. But I want to come to Vivek. Tolaram, in some ways, and the Lekki Free Zone is a microcosm, in my mind, of what a future sustainable Lagos, city like Lagos, could look like. So what do you think for that project and what you've been able to achieve was the biggest policy enabler or regulatory enabler that enabled you to achieve that sustainably? Because I think it can serve as a model for other ways we want to build those corridors in the city.
Yeah, thank you for lucky, and it's great to be amongst esteemed panelists like this. For our consideration with Lagos Free Zone and Lekki Port, I think the biggest catalyst was proving that a public-private partnership can really work. We are well integrated with Nigerian port authorities. We're well integrated with Nigerian customs within the infrastructure of the Free Zone and Lekki Deep Sea ports. You're able to bring your goods from a port within 48 hours through our green channel and be in a place where there is power, there's clean water, there's security, and there's infrastructure around with logistics, mobility, connectivity, banking, payments, in order for businesses to catalyze their environment. And I think that's very important because once we can prove that the public-private partnership works well, it's a catalyst for other investors, other industrialists, other economic zones to take that benefit and move forward.
Okay, and what is your sustainability strategy? Because I know in terms of industrial power use, climate, environmental sustainability, how can we build that alongside the Tolaram type of model?
Yeah, absolutely. I think first and foremost with sustainability, the important consideration is we do not move to a policy where we over-regulate, right? In Europe, if you look at a lot of countries in Europe today, they're really pushing forward policy around sustainability. But it requires a lot of companies and industries to spend their sustainability budgets on compliance and reporting. A huge amount of their budgets go there. Now, in the case of sustainability, what are we talking about? The ability to power our industries with more efficient power or with cheaper forms of power? That's a commercial consideration. We would like to have EV vehicles that have less maintenance charges, that can be powered anywhere with either battery swaps or other infrastructures. These are improvements to the commercialization, to the economic viability. So when we think about sustainability from a group perspective, we do not think about it from, oh, we have to meet this and this requirement. We think about how we can run our businesses efficiently, with less wastage, with less water usage, with the most efficient power, being well governed towards governance, paying your taxes well, even employee support, building foundations, building schools, all of that's part of your stakeholder engagements. In the Free Zone, we actively employ from surrounding communities. Those communities in part feel entrenched in the project. They feel like it's a home that's being created for them. And that's the greatest initiative we can give when we start to build infrastructure and businesses, is to continue to give back to society and communities. And that's where I think the power of sustainability and economic resilience can really lie.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for talking to us about the Tolaram model. And Mr. Ogunsoya, I deliberately left you to finish this first round of questions because none of this can happen without capital. NSIA has been involved, particularly in areas like health infrastructure and other types of infrastructure. But is there a particular type of project currently in Lagos's pipeline that you think NSIA can really support to achieve the sustainable future of the city that we're seeking to build?
Thank you. Lagos has been a darling of NSIA, and most of our investment are actually based in Lagos, not by any deliberate policy, but because Lagos is a commercial hub for the country. About 3 weeks ago, the governor and I just launched a data center somewhere in Lekki. It's going to be the largest data center in Nigeria, about 40 megawatt data center, and that's going to be an enabler for a future city. For a future city, what do you need? You need digitization. There's no way we can continue to be a manual system if you want to be a mega city. If you look at two examples of the cities of the future, Dubai that we all talk about, 4 million people. You can look at New Delhi, 35 million people, two extremes, but both of them are thriving on technology. One is focusing on smart technology. Dubai is a place where everything is done smartly. And with India, it focuses on what I call digital public infrastructure, which is a combination of 3 layers of technology: identity layer that is basically digitized, another layer for payments that is instant, and a third layer for information sharing. On these 3 layers, you can build anything: health facilities, education facilities, instant payment. They all work together. And that can only be enabled by a very, very massive data center. Consume massive energy. Energy is provided in the data center. That's what we support. Beyond the data center that we're supporting, we're actually part of the Medipark that is being built in front of the Lagos Boat Club. We're putting a major diagnostic center as a feature of the mega path. Most of you may not be aware, the cancer center at Luth was actually put together by the NSIA, very well run, affordable to many patients, still the cheapest in the country. Lagos Ibadan Expressway was put together enabled by NSIA, and we not only support mention digitization, we also do entertainment. That's a major arena that we're putting together around Lekki. It's going to be a 12,000 capacity. That will be the biggest arena that would be enough to entertain basketball, whatever we choose to do, that's going to be enabled. So we are a good friend of Lagos State. We keep supporting Lagos State, like you support every other state, because the fund is owned by the federal government, the 36 state government, the local governments, and the municipal of Abuja. So we're a friend of everyone. But Lagos, of course, is a special friend of NSIA.
Yeah, thank you. And I think those projects and that pipeline deserve a round of applause. I think it's easy to underestimate just what it takes. But I'm coming back to you, Mr. Ogunsoya, because I think it's easy to believe sometimes that it's just sort of free money. You throw out infrastructure projects. But what is it that you would typically seek to ensure that these projects are viable, and maybe other states can learn one or two things, or how Lagos is structuring these projects that make it attractive to a long-term infrastructure investor like NSIA? Thank you.
At NSIA, we don't want to be an operating investor. We're never an operator. We're what I call a marquee investor. We just put a stamp of approval on any investment. It's a signature of the sovereign. We're not going to operate the asset. We're not going to be the majority shareholder. But when you put a stamp of sovereignty on any investment, it de-risks the project significantly. That's one thing we do. Number two, we don't seek to be the majority shareholder. Typically, we don't take more than 25% of any investment. You must figure out to fund the balance. Number three, we like to see co-investors. When I say co-investors, we want like-minded co-investors, typically DFIs, pension fund, or other investors who share our own ideas of transparency. We like to see that. We also want to be sure that the project is actually sustainable. How do we talk about sustainability? If you're constructing a road, we want to see how the road is going to be paid for. Whether there's a toll that is going to be paid for by the users, or government is going to make, somebody has to pay for something. Nothing is free in life. Either the drivers are paying a toll to use the road, or the government is making an allocation to defray the cost of the infrastructure. If you're supporting a seaport or an airport, there should be fares that would return sufficient returns to those who are putting the money down. And finally, We're not a perpetual investor. We're not going to be in any investment forever. We want to see an exit strategy. How do we exit investment so that we can use that money for that stuff? Which is why it's also important to have a very, very deep capital market where we can go, sell the investment, or we can find other investors who are coming to take it up. But that is very, very important for us. And a very small issue which I'd like to mention is about the currency issue. Remember, this fund is meant to preserve the wealth of the country and also to increase the wealth of our country. So we don't like when the value is being diluted, which is why we tend to ensure that the projects we finance, they add the risks by probably having a dollar-linked return, or the naira pricing is sufficiently flexible to accommodate swings in macro indices to make sure we preserve the value of the investment. So all these things are very important in order to make sure your wealth, my wealth, is preserved for your children, my children, for generations unborn.
Fantastic. Thank you for giving us that picture of what it takes to structure these bankable projects. Now, speaking of wealth, Professor Aboyomi, we often say health is wealth. But one of the things I think that also makes for a sustainable city is culture. And what I mean by culture, in the philosophical sense, how people interact with the infrastructure that is built, or the lifestyles people pursue in a megacity like Lagos. For instance, biomass, wood fuel burning, which contributes to health challenges as opposed to switching to clean cooking. How is the Ministry of Health in Lagos State ensuring that the infrastructure being created and developed around health actually aligns with the way people are using and interacting with those pieces of infrastructure?
Yeah, thank you very much. That's actually a really, really important question. And when Mr. Governor gave us the mandate to develop the blueprint for medical infrastructure transformation, one of the key pillars on which we built that blueprint was, apart from renewable energy and patient and staff flow, we looked at the cultural behavior of our citizens. For example, if you go to a hospital in England, they'll tell you there's visiting hours between 5 and 7, and then one person comes and you sit by the bed. In Africa, you have a relative on admission, the whole village is outside. There are people there from morning to night, So in our facilities, we have to take certain cultural attributes into consideration. Is there enough space for the family? The family actually come. Sometimes they cook outside or they cook nearby. They need somewhere to sleep because they're not just going to leave their relative sitting in a medical facility. So the cultures are different. And we've designed our blueprint to accommodate the nuances of how citizens relate with their relatives when their relatives are in or on admission in hospitals. So the new hospitals that we're rolling out in Lagos, the general hospitals, the PHCs, the specialist hospitals, they've all taken into consideration, apart from the very important attributes around low carbon footprint, using ventilation, natural sunlight, we've created opportunities for relatives to be close to their loved ones who are in the hospital, to accommodate that natural cultural bond that happens. Sometimes the patients don't like to eat the hospital food, so relatives bring food for the patients. So there are many things like that that we're building into the cultural attributes of
fantastic. And it would not be lost on a lot of Lagosians the fantastic work Lagos did around the COVID-19 pandemic. We live in a world where we're constantly facing public health risks. In a Lagos of the future, city of the future, we also face new types of public health risks. We know about the Ebola crisis in the eastern DRC. How prepared is Lagos today, God forbid, were we to face a severe public health crisis, just to demonstrate to us the work that has been undergone in your ministry, working with your partners?
So we are always anxious and on some kind of high alert in Lagos, because Lagos receives a huge amount of human traffic by air, by ports, seaports, and by land crossings. Apart from that, 30 million people have to be fed every day. Yes. So that means we bring in 18,000 heads of cattle a day, apart from chickens and fish and all kinds of other animals. And so there's a constant movement of people and animals, which puts Lagos, the most population-dense megacity in the world, as far as I'm concerned, at a huge vulnerability to contagion. So COVID, we learned a lot from, but COVID was like kindergarten compared to Ebola. COVID fatality rate is about 1%. Ebola, the least I've heard is 25%, which means out of every 4 people that catch Ebola, 1 may not make it. All right? So we're ramping up as usual. We're building on our COVID experience. We learned a lot from COVID and Ebola before then. We've got something called the Lagos BioShield. That means the most important thing is how do these dangerous pathogens enter Lagos? So the commonest port is the airport, Murtala Mohammed International Airport. And so we're already embedded in there. And even for this conference, many of you will start receiving WhatsApp and email messages asking about your welfare, where did you travel from, and so on and so forth. It's all part of the BioShield. We're very, very particular. We know everybody that's coming in from Eastern and Central Africa at this point in time.
Yeah.
Whether you're coming by air, by road, we're all networked with our epidemiologists around the states. We're in touch with the airlines. We have the advanced passenger information sheet. So we know where everybody is coming from, and we know what your business is as best as we can. And so that BioShield is to try and protect the inflow of a very dangerous pathogen. Should it come in, then we have a very, very elaborate network of contact tracing, as well as the isolation centers and our very advanced biosafety laboratory.
Fantastic. Good to know Lagos is building that resilience and well prepared. So I'm going to maybe start from the end there, Mr. Clinton, and as we start to wrap up, a final set of questions for the remaining panelists. Imagining a future of Lagos, you have today, many of you know we have taxis, we have Uber, you have your personal vehicles, you have your corporate buses, we have rail transportation, the various lines, we have transport by helipad, we have waterways. Where is the scope really for the EVs? From an affordability perspective, because part of having a sustainable city is access for commuters, and access is affordability. How do you see that working out in the future and coexisting alongside all these other modes of transportation? Very briefly.
Okay. The way I put it is that for you to get the best benefit on EVs is on a mass transit or commercial basis. The private luxury vehicle transits the owner to work and back. So the emission on the traditional vehicle is not much. But the mass transit, the buses, the tricycles, the motorcycles for logistics, the ferries, that's the scope that you start at, and that has the largest impact on the city of the future, because it's the bottom of the pyramid, and you move a larger volume of the population at that level, you make the largest saving on carbon emissions, and you gain the best on fuel switch from fossil fuel to electric.
So EVs, mass market, not sort of a middle class private
mass
vehicle.
Transit is where you get the biggest impact.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much for that. I'm going to come to you, Dr. Valentine Obi, from a payments and digital infrastructure perspective. What is the one regulatory or policy catalyst you think we should be introducing now into the payments infrastructure, digital infrastructure landscape in Lagos that will prepare and position it for the future?
Well, I think the first is, I think the central bank already has the right regulatory framework for such, solutions. Definitely, cash is expensive. And if we ensure that almost all government services are paid digitally, that will be enormous. One, it will save the government cost. It reduces fraud. It reduces corruption. And it helps with a lot of reconciliation that they will have to do. And the collection becomes a lot easier. And already Lagos State is doing quite a lot when it comes to digital technology and financial payments. Now, the regulatory part of it is that the central bank has already made that possible, because all the government need to do is to ensure that they partner with the right banking institution, and that automatically will allow whatever platform that the government wants to put in to use for payments. So that is given. So the Lagos State government already has a lot of collection platforms that is working for them. And if they can just ensure that they can reduce cash payment in government facilities, I think that will be enormous. And that will indeed increase even the revenue for the government. That's my...
Thank you very much. So, Vivek, Tolaram, we know about your achievements. And the question is, what next? Your project is concentrated in what we call the Eastern Corridor of Lagos as a megacity. What is the scope and potential to replicate that for the future? Have you looked at other parts of the city, for instance?
Yeah, I mean, as a business, we've been in Nigeria for 50 years, and we manufacture products all over the country, Lagos being the largest investment that we have across our manufactories. And for the group going forward, we'll continue to invest in the country, in industrialization locally. I think what's really important and what we see as the future is that we move away from being an import-based country. We need to facilitate manufacturing, job creation, an ecosystem and an economic platform that can continue to grow and support the increase in population and the size of the city as it evolves. When it comes to the free zone, our ambition is to make Lekki Deep Sea Port the largest deep sea port in all of Africa, so that we can continue to import and, continue to export all of the great products that we had. You know, Doctor was talking about the cocoa exports. You need the right infrastructure in place to be able to process cocoa and then get the value addition before you export. So from Tolaram's perspective as a business, it's continuing to drive that and continuing to develop a zone where we can invite multiple businesses to use Nigeria as its manufacturing base, not just for Nigeria itself, but all of West Africa.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Vivek. So, Mr. Ogunsoya, I'll give you the final words. You know, one of the things that Vivek talked about in his first submission was the importance of public-private sector partnerships. NSI has been working with Lagos State for a very long time. Is there a new model for that partnership going into the future that you would perhaps like to see, especially as the demands for infrastructure digitization continue to increase in Lagos?
I would like to see a deeper level of local capital formation. I've seen a lot of emphasis on DFIs, on the money coming from outside the country. But if you look deeply, we need to find ways of financing local capital. Capital from pension funds, capital from insurance companies, capital from banks. I believe there is enough quantum of long-term funding that we can use to support the PPP framework. A couple of days ago, we just got some confirmation from IFC. They're going to be part of a $1 billion fund that we're anchoring. This $1 billion fund is to provide some sort of guarantee for infra investment. We know infra investment are very long-term, huge capital required. In order to de-risk this, we're setting up a $1 billion fund that is anchored by us, World Bank, IFC just came in again. And this funding is meant to cover 4 different areas of any infra investment. The project preparation phase, the development phase, the guarantee, those who want the guarantee, and also to provide the risk capital itself. These are areas where I reckon that Lagos State government and other interested can benefit from. And our screening is very deep. It's just meant to make sure that, the money, when it leaves, it comes back in the right format again. So, but I must commend the Lagos State government, the governor, the deputy governor, on the very excellent partnership between us and them. I've listed a number of projects. We just did another power station about a couple of days ago. The very power station is also being supported by the NSIA. I'm sure other states are jealous, but we just love the fact that Lagos State government has been a viable partner of NSIA, and we continue to do whatever we can to raise the standard of living. On the last note, I'd just like to say, as we look at the city of the future, there's one thing that we need to look out for. We should make these a very affordable city, and also a very inclusive city. We shouldn't build a city of prosperous, islands surrounded by poverty-stricken community. How do we make sure that the growth that we're talking about is inclusive and becomes affordable to a large number of people that live in Lagos State? That's my last word.
And I really think that's such a brilliant note to end on. When I sum up the discussion today, there's 3 words that come to mind. First is sustainability, which someone once described as building and meeting the needs of today without jeopardizing the needs of future generations. The second part of it is around viability, the fact that everything comes at a financial cost and projects needs to be bankable. But most importantly, I think the last one, which resonates with what Mr. Ogunsoya said, is related to a phrase I once heard, and many of you would have heard it, that the sign of a country or a city that's wealthy is not when the poor switch to private cars, but it's when the wealthy start to use mass transit. And I think that speaks to me of access and democratization. And I think what we've really heard here today is the need for an integrated approach to building our city of the future. Thank you very much, and many thanks to Professor Abayomi, Mr. Ogunsoya, Vivek Aswani, Dr. Valentine Obi, and of course, the EV guy, Mr. James Oludele Clinton. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, and thank you to you, our wonderful moderator, for steering the conversation. I'd like to quickly invite Mr. Governor, Mr. Deputy Governor, and the co-chairs to please join for a quick picture after this panel. That was a very progressive conversation, don't you think? Mr.
Yes, Rolake, you're my favorite moderator ever. That was fascinating. Absolutely
very well done.
Fascinating.
Well done, Rolake. We told you yesterday that day 2 would even be better, more insightful, and you can already tell from the conversations we've had. Thank you very much. Well done to our moderator, Rolake Akekugbe-Filani, and our exceptional panelists. A round of applause for them as they exit the stage. Thank you so much. And imagine today we have Mr. Governor and Mr. Deputy Governor, both of them present for Invest Lagos 3.0.
Lagos is not blessed with mineral wealth. We don't have oil, we don't have diamonds or gold, but we have people. And the new economy is the knowledge economy.
When a Nigerian travels abroad for oncology or for cardiac care or just for their annual checkup, the payment for the procedure, the flights, the accommodation, and the months of support all flow into another country's economy.
Simple comparator is cocoa and chocolate. So we grow the cocoa in Nigeria, we harvest it, we bag it, and we ship it out. And then we import exotic chocolates and beverages back to Nigeria at humongous cost to us. So if we apply this same principle to medical science, or any science for that matter, the raw material is here with us in Nigeria. The minds to translate that raw material into knowledge and discovery are here. 20, 30 years ago, we were the great consumers of international global culture and music. Every piece of music that we listened to was imported into Nigeria, until we made a deliberate effort to stimulate our own industry around culture and creativity. And now, Lagos, Nigeria, is a global phenomenon around Afrobeats, around culture, around creativity. So there's no difference, whether it's in the arts and culture, whether it's in engineering, architecture, in health, we can do the same thing.
What is structurally different about LASMISO is that the foundations exist before the announcement. The Lagos State Biobank is operational. The Smart Health Information Platform is deployed. The Infectious Disease Research Institute has broken ground. The Free Zone and Deep Sea Port are functioning. There is a 25-year concession and a feasibility study on the way to ground every decision on evidence. We are building on solid ground that already exists. That is the structural difference.
The Lekki Corridor succeeds because its operators complement one another. Lagos Free Zone provides world-class industrial infrastructure and port access, while other developments along the axis contribute additional industrial capacity, logistics, and scale. Together, they create an integral ecosystem where businesses can seamlessly import raw materials, access talents and services, and export finished products through a connected network. Lekki Worldwide Investment Limited coordinates this relationship to ensure the corridor functions as one powerful ecosystem rather than isolated developments.
LASMISO is fundamentally investable. The fundamentals are strong. There's significant unmet healthcare demand in Nigeria and in Lagos. There's heavy dependence on pharmaceutical importation. There is a large clinical market in Lagos and existing infrastructure within the free zone and clear government backing through a long-term concession framework. The opportunity is real. In my opinion, the most undervalued asset is the data infrastructure. Lagos generates millions of patient interactions annually, supported by primary healthcare centers, a growing biobank, and integrated health information systems. That ecosystem creates long-term advantages in research, clinical trials, drug development, and biotech innovation.
We're moving out of the era of minerals and fossil fuel. It's all around intelligence.
You know, be wise for Lagos, you know, be wise for anywhere.
LASMISO is a whole network of information feeding into a central location. So there are going to be several LASMISO hubs all over Lagos feeding into the central location, because it's like, a refinery where you have sources of oil coming from different wells to be purified and converted into products that's useful. And so LASMISO is just the refinery and the produce of knowledge and benefit to society is what comes out of the refinery. And that has tremendous economic value. But it all comes from the society. It comes from our institutions. It comes from our doctors, our healthcare professionals. It comes from our academics. It comes from inquiring
Ladies and
minds
gentlemen, please take your seats so the program can begin. Take your seats, please. This includes the gentlemen of the press as well.
With the plants running, the labs leads.
Please take your seats. Please listen to me. I'm the moderator. I'm your traffic warden. You have to listen to Mark Edo as I say, please take your seats. Please take your seats.
So seeing it function will be the proof that the support mattered. Never before have two ministries ever come together. And this project has been in the offing for over 6 years within healthcare. And I'm delighted that under my leadership and under Mr. Governor's leadership, it will mean a great deal to see Lesmiso fully realized. To stand one day in a zone where Nigerian scientists are discovering, Nigerian workers are manufacturing, and Nigerian patients are being treated with medicines made here in Lagos, Nigeria.
Lesmiso will be born in Lagos. Lagos is the center of excellence. This is Lagos, Eko and Ibaje. The starting block of human capital is good health, and we promise you that we will play our part in ensuring that Lagos has the human capital that it requires to be nationally, regionally, continentally, and internationally competitive for a better Lagos. Thank you very much.
Okay, the program continues. Please take your seats right now. All these people in front. The gentleman with the white hat. Can you tap this gentleman right here? This gentleman, tap him on his shoulder. Please go and sit down, please. Please, thank you. This lady over here, please. Madam, over there with wearing black. Go and sit down, please. All of you, please go and sit down. Yes, all of you. Gentlemen of the press, this guy wearing black native. Go and sit down. These people, please, waiting to speak to the governor. These two ladies, please, can you sit down over there? I see a lady in green at the back there. Madam, I see you. Can you sit down? Thank you. I told you I'm a traffic warden. It's my job. It's what I'm paid for. Please, Ejoko. Okay. So, growth in Lagos at scale, what we dream of, what we hope you, our brothers from across the globe, will invest in, it depends on domestic policy, it depends on domestic partnerships, but it also depends on the quality of international partnerships. And that's what we're going to be talking about in Plenary 5, which has actually 3 parts to it. It's called the Global Partnership for Growth Plenary Session, or segment, should I say. And the first one's a big one. Now, the Commonwealth is 56 countries, 2.7 billion souls. AFCFTA, the African Continental Free Trade Area, the biggest free trade area in the world, the hopes and aspirations of 1.4 billion Africans with a combined GDP of 3.4 trillion US dollars and 55 countries. Put them together, the Commonwealth and the AFCFTA, you have a lot of people, you have a lot of GDP, and you have a lot of countries. And that's exactly what we're going to be doing right now when we talk about global partnerships for growth. So this is what I call in-conversation conversation. There's no moderator, because they don't need one, because they are sort of two sides of the same coin, and I want you to give them a warm round of applause for a conversation as they come to the stage. Please welcome Ms. Samantha Cohen, the Chief Executive Officer of the Commonwealth Enterprise and Investment Council. Followed by the hardest working man, I always call him at the AFCFTA. He is the Secretary General of the AFCFTA Secretariat. Please welcome His Excellency Wamkele Mene. Do you have your mics? Can we get them some mics? Oh, they have mics. Ah, you came prepared. The floor is yours. Go for it.
We're on. Well, it's lovely to see you, Kelly, and you've been working so hard these last couple of days. Everybody wants to talk to you, so I think you're obviously doing something right. But it's really a very crucial time in the AFCFTA. And I think we're at a crossroads because of geopolitical shifts and the way the world is changing so rapidly. And I'd just like to hear from you what you think, where are you in the implementation journey, and what are the critical priorities of your next phase?
Well, thank you very much. And again, let me thank my senior brother, His Excellency, the Governor, for inviting me. And it's been a very, very intense day and a half. We started this journey, as you know, in 2020. That is when the Assembly of Heads of States and Government decided that we have to accelerate market integration in Africa. 55 economies, fragmented, 42 currencies, inability of people to move easily across borders, all of these things contributing to a very, very constrained intra-Africa growth pattern. And since then, I'm happy to report, as I said yesterday, there are now 50 countries in Africa that are implementing the AFCFTA. We have we've concluded all of the protocols, what we refer to as the protocols, which are really the sub-agreements for that constitute the main trade agreement. That work has been concluded, and we are seeing records amounts of intra-Africa trade. This year, we project intra-Africa trade will be at $230 billion. Last year, it was at $220 billion. So we are making progress, but we have to move faster because, as you said, the global economy and the global context is adverse. Many countries have been kicked out of AGOA. Many African countries have lost market share in the US market through AGOA. Many African countries are not able to access the European Union markets. So we have to build a domestic market as the African continent, and it's here in Africa. Yeah. And the crisis that you are mentioning, actually from the very beginning of this journey, we have been, as Africans here, we have been subjected to externalities that have had a very adverse impact on intra-Africa trade because of our dependence on external markets. The COVID-19 pandemic, for example, fragmenting supply chains, as we all know, and we were at the back of the queue for vaccines, germ-killing products, and other therapeutics. The Russia-Ukraine context, which also caused inflationary pressures on many, many African countries and pushing millions of people back into poverty because of the over-reliance on the imports of grains from Russia, Ukraine. Now the war in Iran. Similarly, inflationary pressures. So for us to be able to navigate any crisis or future crisis, we've got to build a domestic market. And by domestic market, I mean the 50 countries that have ratified the agreement establishing the AFCFTA.
Yes, and I think you've outlined all the external factors that you've had no control over that have really had an adverse impact. But in terms of what you can control, where are the bottlenecks? And domestically, is it visa-free access? Is it the cost of airline travel, for example, or air routes or freight routes and the administrative burden of freight crossing borders? Where do you see the domestic bottlenecks that can be unlocked quickly with willing?
And that is really a critical challenge, is overcoming the constraints. You've mentioned some of them. The cost of trade finance continues to be very high. So small, medium enterprises cannot afford trade finance that would enable them to scale and to expand and reach new markets out of ECOWAS into the East African community, for example. So we have to work with our development finance institutions to see what mitigation steps can be taken so that our commercial banks can enable affordable onward lending. The second constraint is infrastructure, transport, logistics. The infrastructure, transport and logistics continues to be very, very high. Intra-Africa travel is very, very expensive relative to other parts of the world. And so we have to work within the African Union and with individual governments to find ways of reducing the cost of travel. And by the way, the cost is attributable mainly to each country wanting to impose taxes on the cost per seat. So it's a government policy issue that we have to address. Even the movement of cargo is very, very difficult. From Lagos to Abidjan is 1,080 kilometers, but it can take goods up to 17 days to reach Abidjan, a distance of 1,080 kilometers with 37 checkpoints along the way. So we've got constraints that we can deal with relatively quickly. Then you mentioned a free movement of persons. This is a very, very important area, because if business people and the business people in the room here are not able to move relatively easy around the continent for the purposes of business, then we will be constraining intra-Africa trade. We know the experience of the European Union when the European Union relaxed movement of persons. I'm not even talking about movement of labor. I'm just talking about temporary movement of persons for business meetings. We saw the exponential growth in intra-EU trade. So we have to accelerate intra-Africa movement of persons. And in this regard, Nigeria, Benin, Ghana, recently Togo, Rwanda, Kenya are some of the countries, and Congo-Brazzaville are some of the countries that have announced visa-free for all Africans on arrival. And that's exactly the direction that we have to move in and accelerate movement of persons. And let me, whilst we are talking about movement of persons, let me also address something which is very, very important. And that is that when business people are moving, a business person is not looking to stay in country X indefinitely. They are looking to conduct business and then leave. So we are working with our leaders, our heads of states at the highest level to address this issue. We're also working with the private sector to address this issue, to make sure that as many countries as possible, at the very least, enable visa on arrival. So these are some of the constraints. The point you make is absolutely correct. They are all within our reach as a continent.
Yes, and I was recently in Togo, and I was there for business reasons, and when I arrived, they issued me with an investor passport, which, you know, was a fast track to all of the opportunities for business people visiting on a short-term basis. And I think, you know, that is something that is a very good model that can be followed. But I think prioritizing business access, as you say, is a very good idea as well. But I want to turn now to two subjects, digitization and manufacturing. Now, obviously, there's a lot of discussion about creating more manufacturing on the continent, because obviously that produces a much better trade environment, because you're adding value before things are moving offshore. How are you increasing the opportunity for manufacturing in the continent? And secondly, how is digitization helping? I mean, just to mention, one of the sponsors here this week is Aradex, and we work very closely with them. They are a 3D advanced manufacturing company. And I always say to them, you are the AFCFTA in action, because you can produce in 3 days spare parts for machinery that previously companies would have to fly parts from Germany or the US, and there would be downtime costs for a week or 2 weeks. So I think that is digitization and manufacturing combined. But those two things surely are transformative. I'd love to hear your views on that.
We are seeing increasingly our private sector taking advantage of Africa's digital economy. Fintechs, I mean, here in Lagos, this is a city that has the leading fintech industry and investments of fintech on the continent. We are seeing increasingly innovation in digital payments, increasingly innovation in business connectivity that is digital. And all of these interventions are absolutely critical, because we know that by 2035, Africa's digital economy is estimated to be at $712 billion by 2035. Now, for us to get to that point of that projection, we have to put in place the appropriate regulatory environment. Whether it is doing the things that Governor was mentioning yesterday, and that is enabling data centers to be established across country or across indeed the continent, so that these data centers continue to power Africa's industrial development. This is a very, very strong focus for us, Africa's digital economy, and the infrastructure that is required to ensure the digital public infrastructure that's required to ensure that we reap the benefits of Africa's digital economy. And what really for us is important is the inclusion element of Africa's digital economy. We know farmers in Kenya that use digital tools to assess whether they should access a market today or tomorrow. Smallholder farmers, thousands and thousands of young people across our continent are at the cutting edge of digital innovation. And so these are very important segments of our society that are embedded in Africa's digital economy, and we have to encourage that. And finally, I would just say on the digital economy, the payments infrastructure that we have to set up on our continent is absolutely critical. Because if you and I'm sitting in Kenya, and you are a counterparty in Lagos, what has the United States dollar got to do with both of us trading? So we've got to enable payments in local currency. If you are in Nigeria, your counterparty is in Kenya, you trade in the Naira, they receive the Kenyan shilling, and vice versa. And we have achieved this. To an extent, we have achieved this working with my senior brother, Professor Orama, when he was president of the bank. We supported the establishment of the Pan-African Payment and Settlement System, which enables a payments infrastructure in Africa that has all of the sovereignty elements that we would want to see. So as we speak today, you are able to make an intra-Africa trade transfer on the back of the Pan-African Payment and Settlement System without using the dollar. Now, the second component of your question is equally interesting, because manufacturing continues to be the backbone and the potential for Africa's transformative initiative. As I mentioned yesterday, I mean, this city is well endowed. The largest number of industrialists in Africa are here. And these are people who continue to power Africa's industrial transformation. So at a policy level, continentally, we have to make sure that they are able to move their goods from Lagos to Egypt or from Lagos to Malawi with the least hindrances, whether we're talking about customs systems harmonization, or whether we are talking about trade facilitation measures, we have to make sure that Africa's manufacturers continue to have access to the entire continent. We also have to make sure that they have access to capital to continue to invest in Africa's industrial development. Africa 50, Africa Finance Corporation, AFDB, Afrexim Bank, these are some of the institutions that have the balance sheet and have it to deploy it for industrial development of our continent. So I think these two components combined, digitization of Africa's economy on the back of a rapidly industrializing continent, this is exactly the kind of acceleration that we want to see.
Yes, I think that's really encouraging to hear that. And I had a very interesting meeting this morning with PZ Cousins, one of the oldest manufacturing companies on the continent and deeply embedded here in Nigeria. And it's also about, maintaining that manufacturing backbone and making sure that the conditions are right for them to thrive, because it's also about job creation, which I think manufacturing provides. I'd just like to turn now to the wider Commonwealth. So you are very focused, of course, on unlocking the potential domestically of the continent and creating this fantastic free trade zone. So what would you say to other Commonwealth countries, India, the other big trading nations? What would you say to them about doing business with Africa?
Well, this is one of the SG's, Madam SG of the Commonwealth. One of her priorities since she took over has been to put more emphasis on trade and investment within the Commonwealth. Of course, it is historically a political forum, but she has done a really good job to position the Commonwealth to focus on trade and investment. And in the AFCFTA, there is an opportunity. The AFCFTA is a platform for the Commonwealth to pursue that objective. We have a rapidly changing global context where trade and investment partnerships, the traditional trade and investment partnerships, are no longer there. The reliability aspect of those trade and investment partnerships is not there anymore. I think if you talk to the EU vis-à-vis the US and the trading relations and investment relations, the European Union is rapidly realizing that those partnerships don't count anymore. So similarly, we have to take account of what is happening around the world. Where are the opportunities within the Commonwealth context? Where are opportunities for investment? Where are opportunities for the digital economy? You mentioned India, a very competitive country in digitization. Whether we are talking about digitization of identities for the entire population, or indeed digitization of payments. So I think there are opportunities within the Commonwealth. We have to be very deliberate about identifying those opportunities. First, so market access. Second, we have to be very deliberate about identifying the investment and the financing that will be required to unlock those opportunities. And so here on our continent, there's an abundance of opportunity for investors from other Commonwealth countries. Whether we are talking about the Pension Fund of Australia, looking to invest in green technology in Africa to power our green trade and green industrialization, we have to take these very, very deliberate steps to unlock the trade and investment opportunities within the Commonwealth. We have the capability, we have the population, the combined GDP, whether we're talking about consumer spending or business spending, the capability is there. What we require now is a strategy to unlock these opportunities.
Yes, I agree. And I think it's also about sharing the knowledge, because I think I spend time in Australia, and that is a country that has been affected by the geopolitical shifts and is looking to diversify away from Asia as being its dominant market. And there is increasing interest in Africa, but they don't really know how to do business in Africa because they really haven't traded here before. It's the same with Canada. 80% of Canada's trade has come from the US, and suddenly they are required to look elsewhere. And Canadian businesses have been approaching us to say, we would like to do business with Africa, but we don't really know where to start. We don't know how to enter the market. And I think that's where you are in such a strong position, and all the work you're doing is going to bear fruit, because there is a great opportunity at this time. You know, where there is crisis, there is opportunity. And I think also making sure that these markets that are new to trading in Africa are aware of the opportunity, and to make sure that it's easy for them to do business and to enter the markets is really important as well.
Yes, absolutely. And, you know, the conversations we are having with, mentioned some of the countries, private sector in Australia, in Canada, and so on, there is, of course, this perception of risk.
Yeah.
And the risk premium, which we have to explain the reality of our continent, that the risk premium, the price of the risk is not relative to the real risk, and that it is determined in a way that doesn't take account of reality. But we have to confront that challenge. The second aspect of this is we have the advantage of, if we want to de-risk investment or de-risk market access into Africa by an Australian pension fund or a Canadian private equity firm, we have our own development finance institutions that are willing to partner to de-risk because they know the market very, very well. And they are already in the market. In fact, many of our development finance institutions, such as Afrexim Bank, Africa Finance Corporation, and so on. So these are opportunities within the Commonwealth for private sector within the Commonwealth to leverage on existing capital in Africa for further expansion and to further unlock opportunities.
Exactly. And as our chairman, Lord Marland, said yesterday, there's a 21% advantage of intra-Commonwealth trade because of the trust and the existing relationships and partnerships already that can be leveraged and elevated in order to create new opportunities and to expand. And I think that's what we're all very committed to doing. And just in closing, what does the future look like? If we project forward to 2050, what would you like to see?
Well, I think we are on track as a continent to double intra-Africa trade by 2050. We are on track to create a globally competitive economy that is collectively the African continent, provided we implement what we agreed to do, provided we agree to implement measures that will unlock private sector investment collectively as a continent, not individual countries. We invest in our infrastructure. We invest in transport and logistics. We invest in trade finance. I believe we are well poised to unlock the great potential that our continent has. And I have the honor to travel the length and breadth of our continent. And so I'm able to see the opportunities that we have. But it will take a great deal of effort for us to unlock these opportunities that are in abundance. And by 2050, we should no longer be talking about we have the potential. We should have unlocked the potential by 2050. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Excellency. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Great pleasure.
Your Excellency, thank you. I'd like to invite on stage the governor, the deputy governor, the conference co-chairs, and the conference chair. Thank you very much. The co-chairs of the LOC and Mr. Aiboje Aigimokwede, please join for a quick photograph. Thank you very much. That was indeed rich. Please give them another round of applause for that insightful, very rich conversation speaking on building global partnerships for growth. Thank you. All right, thank you very much. As they exit the stage, may I ask that we give them another round of applause. Thank you so much, Ms. Samantha Cohen, for moderating that conversation. And thank you, Your Excellency, Wamkele Mene, for the rich insights you have provided today as we now prepare for the next conversation, which I say the foundation has already been laid. So let's talk about the previous plenary. That plenary set a foundation asking us what we have been building. This next conversation is asking us another question. How do we build, and who will build with us? We already heard this over and again, and I'm stating that Africa cannot build alone. And it's not just because our capital is insufficient. It's because the weight of what this continent is attempting to build definitely demands global partnership and the full weight of global partnership. To help us interrogate that further, I have the honor of inviting on stage a communications professional who has spent over a decade and a half working in media and government relations and external communications. Please make welcome on stage Mr. Zaki Cooper. A round of applause for him. Thank you. All right, thank you very much, Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. We will take another session before that plenary that I just introduced. But the interesting part is Mr. Zaki Cooper here will also be moderating that session. I'd like to invite on stage his guest as we prepare for a truly insightful conversation. Please make welcome on stage the British Deputy High Commissioner. Please celebrate Mr. Johnny Baxter as he joins Mr. Zaki Cooper on stage. Thank you very much. Also joining them is the chairman of the conference and the chairman of the Lagos International Financial Center. Please make welcome Mr. Aiboje Aigimokwede, CFR. Thank you very much. Mr. Zaki Cooper, you have the stage. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, it's great to be with you again. Good afternoon. And conscious we have, great collection of people in the room. We've got entrepreneurs, business leaders, deal makers, the doers, the people who are going to make things happen. And I think really the key numbers for you to keep in mind are 3, 2, 1, okay? Because we're at Lagos 3.0. This is day 2. And the 1 is because there's only one reason we're all here to grow the Lagos economy and to make deals happen. And I'm delighted to be joined by our 2 eminent panelists this afternoon. And if I could go to you first, Mr. Aiboje, you're the co-chair of Lagos International Financial Center and indeed the chair of this summit. So first thing to say is thank you and well done on what you've achieved with this summit. Round of applause, absolutely. I guess the question I wanted to ask you is the Lagos International Financial Center positions Lagos as a financial hub. What structural reforms are necessary to aid and support global investors?
Thank you. So congratulations, Lagos. And of course, the larger Commonwealth. It's truly a great thing when the public and private sector come together to create an ecosystem for investments, because that is the basis of growth, that is the basis of wealth creation, and that is the basis of prosperity. For me, as a Nigerian and an African, there are three things that I kind of look towards to make things happen. One is the capacity. Another, of course, is the commitment. And the third is what I would call serendipity or luck. And I look for these three things to be present when I engage or involve myself in anything. When I think about Lagos, Lagos has capacity. Lagos has commitment, certainly of the public sector and the private sector. And Lagos has a lot of serendipity and good luck going for it at this moment in time. And I'll tell you why. The governor of Lagos is a markets man. He's a financial markets professional. And a man who lives by the credo of my word is my bond. His deputy is an investment man, a man who has spent his life in the private sector and the public sector driving real investments, tangible and concrete investments, and making things happen. Their cabinet is full of technocrats, many of whom I know, accomplished and with proven track records of getting things done. And they are surrounded by a private sector reality that comprises, in Lagos, the best of Nigeria, the best of Africa, as some speakers have even said from this very stage. And so, this conference, I think, showcases the potential of Lagos as an investment destination. And what we are trying to do with the LIFC is to create a system that assures you that when you invest, the things you need to convert your investment into good returns are very much present. Take note of something though. The investor has to bring wisdom to the table beyond their money. Lagos State is Lagos State is fertile ground, but you, the investor, has to determine what seeds you want to plant. You, the investor, have to have the ability to nurture within this great fertile ground what it is you seek to generate a return from. So we also will be ensuring that the investors into Lagos are the investors that Lagos and Nigeria needs. I'll talk a bit more about that subsequently. Thank you.
Fantastic, thank you. And just like you're the co-chair of the Financial Centre, this is a sort of summit with a global outlook, if I can put it like that. Just give us an idea of how the Financial Centre is doing on a sort of pan-African but also a global scale.
So, well, first of all, many people have asked the question, why Lagos? Okay?
Right.
And if you think about the fact that Lagos accounts for 1/3 of the economic output of one of Africa's largest economies, okay? Lagos has, I think, second to South Africa, Johannesburg and Cape Town, probably the next most sophisticated financial markets you have in Africa, okay? And then, of course, I've spoken about the talent. So there is an immediacy. Lagos is ready. Lagos is not being prepared. Lagos is ready for international investment. I would argue that Lagos has been ready for 10 years. What the LIFC does is that it kind of puts the crown on Lagos. It makes it clear that we're open for business and we tick all the boxes that international investors, want. Now, if we want to go into numbers, we can, but perhaps I should let Johnny speak first.
Okay. Well, I have one more question for you before we come to Johnny, which is that, in terms of international investors, they have a choice as to where they deploy their capital. So what is the risk appetite of international investors for Lagos, Nigeria, and has that changed over the last 5-10 years?
What I can tell you, though, is, first of all, I don't like to look at investing from a 5 or 10 year window. I mean, I'm a very long-term investor. But even if you want to look at the investing landscape from a, midterm and to 10-year picture, many African investment destinations provide cyclical returns. And it's cyclical because of certain structural problems structural realities within most African economies. One of which is, for instance, the fact that we're very much commodity market determined, in the sense that we have commodities that we produce, but we do not, develop or value add those commodities. So we are very susceptible to commodity super cycles. So if oil prices are up, good. If cocoa prices are up, good. But if cocoa prices are down, it's a problem. But Nestle doesn't care whether cocoa prices are up or down because of what they do with the cocoa and turn it into chocolate. And, chocolate prices don't move with the price of cocoa. So we have to, do a lot of value add, to ensure that we are not susceptible to commodity price distortions. The other thing, of course, is that we spoke about the risk premium. There is for debt, 4 to 10% added premium over U.S. Treasuries that African borrowers have to pay. So when interest rates go up, when you complain about that from an international context, the Nigerian or African borrower is paying anything from 4 to 10% on top of that. And then the equity risk premium is also, in certain instances, almost as high as 20%. But the interesting thing is that we still deliver a competitive return in spite of this. So I'm coming somewhere. So, I'll tell you something interesting. When you look at Nigeria between 2015 and 2023, and the headlines were very much about how much of a difficult environment it was. High interest rates, remember, relatively low oil prices, etc. We had to go through global recessions, 2 recessions in Nigeria and so on during that period. Now, a number of investors exited the market. And when you exit, somebody else buys. Let me tell you what is very interesting. Everybody who bought from the exiting investors between 2022 and 2025 have made, in dollar terms, since that exit, at the low side, 50%. At the high side, in dollar terms, 200%. If there is, and you can check it out. I don't just want to mention the names so that the exiting investors don't feel too bad. But, but that is how phenomenal returns in Nigeria have been since 2023.
Yes. Well, we would all settle for between 50 and 200% returns. So yeah, thank you. Johnny, if I can come to you. This year is 10 years since the UK voted for Brexit to leave the EU. I'm from the UK as well, so I remember those times very well. How has the Brexit vote changed the UK's attitude towards trade and investment deals, partnerships with the rest of the world?
Well, let's start from a Nigeria focus, maybe. I think the UK has always been interested in getting more engaged in vibrant economies like these. And obviously the Brexit has allowed us to shift a level of attention. But to be fair, I mean, on the grounds that Ike has just talked about, Nigeria is always the kind of economy where we would be giving a large amount of attention. I think the other thing to think through, I'm speaking here as a public sector person. Effectively, your question could be seen as a governmental question, but it's also a question about what the private sector does. And the reality is that the things that the British government can do here are always going to be small and always going to be marginal. We want them to be game-changing, but in terms of volumes, the volumes are always going to come from the private sector. So thinking through the things that Samantha was talking about earlier on, one of the jobs of myself and my boss in Abuja is to make sure that British companies do understand how to operate in Nigeria and what the opportunities here are. And we're seeing that tick up dramatically, really, over the last few years. I'm not certain whether I would link it to events in the UK or actually whether I would link it to the policy foundations here, because one of the key elements is having the economic fundamentals right, and we've seen those change. I did want to pick up on one thing that Ike said about secular returns, and I think the interesting question here is whether the Nigerian economy, partly because of the kind of institutions that are going to be developed here, moves away from that cyclical pattern to actually a more predictable pattern, because that then draws in a different sort of investor, which sees a much more certain and a much more stable level of return.
Thank you. And just give, for the audience's benefit, give us a little bit more sort of colour and information about the shape of the relationship between UK and Nigeria as things stand, the economic relationship.
Well, the relationship is a very, very close one. We have deep historical roots between our two countries, which both our countries are proud of. We have seen that relationship formalised in the context of a strategic partnership that was signed between our two governments. But I think most recently, the sort of cherry on the cake, as it were, is the state visit by His Excellency the President to meet the King. And I think what that showed was just the reality of this relationship and how it crosses so many areas. I was lucky enough to go to an event that the King hosted, which was hosting the Nigerian diaspora in Kensington Palace. And the buzz in that room and the readiness of His Majesty the King to engage with people there shows the real depth of a human relationship. But of course, the value of a human relationship is that it then leads to other types of relationships. It leads to trusting economic relationships. And it also, we should never ignore this, is built on a set of institutional relationships. So many of the fundamental Nigerian institutions look very similar to their British counterparts. And we have, over time, for example, supported a relationship between the Central Bank of Nigeria and the Bank of England. We've also supported relationships between the tax authorities in both countries, and that continues across the board. Most recently, I had a visit from the British hydrographer, and of course, he's the person who does all the maps and allows all that shipping to come into Lagos and indeed Nigeria's ports. Nigeria also has a hydrographer. So building those relationships are really fundamental because they're about skills and they're about producing services which the two of us can produce by working together.
And you mentioned the Nigerian diaspora in the UK, which makes a contribution across all areas, the economy, public life, civil society. As an Arsenal supporter, I know they make a huge contribution to Arsenal's team, with two of our star players coming from Nigerian heritage. So that's great, Johnny. Thank you. I think, if I'm not mistaken, we're probably out of time. Was there anything else either of you wanted to add at this stage before we move to the next panel? Ig, would you like to add anything? Some closing remarks, perhaps.
I was going to say something about Arsenal, but I'll hold that for now. But I will say something about Lagos, because it's a much better team. Nigeria is a great nation, and there is no greater vote when you are deemed to be the face and the gateway to a great nation. Lagos represents the best of Nigeria, the best of Africa, and Lagos is open for business. I believe, as I have hinted, that over the next 5 to 10 years, Lagos and Nigeria represent an exciting, but probably even more importantly, rewarding investment destination. If you want to make good money sustainably over the next 10 years, if Lagos and Nigeria is not in your portfolio, I think you have to make a different portfolio choice. Invest Lagos. We're ready for business. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Those are really strong and powerful words. Johnny, did you want to add anything?
Well, I was always also very tempted to say something about Arsenal, and I was wondering whether there were any French Parisians in the room. But yeah, okay, fine. Let's not go down that line. I agree with everything that Ike has said. I think the thing to underline is the importance of institutions, and I think the thing to note is the growth and the strengthening of institutions in Nigeria over time. We heard from NSIA just before. That organisation was founded approximately 10, 15 years ago. It's now a fundamental part of the infrastructure here. We are going to see the Lagos International Financial Centre founded, growing. All of those institutions matter because they give the fundamental confidence for people from everywhere in the world to come and invest and to take the opportunities that Ike has talked about. I suppose the one final comment to make, and this is speaking as a government person in a sense to other government people, the critical other element of this is the ability to turn that growth into something that matters for the population so that benefit is seen everywhere. It's absolutely right that there is individual growth and there are companies that grow. I think the big challenge, and again we see progress towards this, but obviously we all know there needs to be more, is for that growth to lead to jobs across the whole country, and for that to see the benefits spread everywhere, because ultimately that will deliver more growth over time as well.
Fantastic. We heard yesterday that Lagos is an argument. I think we just heard two very powerful arguments for Lagos and the investment opportunity. I'd like to thank my panelists, Ige and Johnny, so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Zaki Cooper. With the same fashion, I'd like to invite Mr. Governor, Mr. Deputy Governor, and the co-chairs of the LOC to please join for picture. But thank you so much, Zaki, for that conversation. And thank you to our guests, Mr. Johnny Baxter and Mr. Igboje Aigimokwede. Mr. Johnny Baxter has been very instrumental in driving global partnerships for us, particularly from the United Kingdom, where he represents. Thank you so much for driving that trade partnership between the UK and Nigeria. And of course, Mr. Igboje Aigimokwede, you can tell he's an ambassador, he's a patriot. That was exceptional. Thank you so much. Interesting conversation, laid the foundation again, even further for the next conversation we are about to have. Mr. Zaki Cooper, you will remain on stage because you're moderating the next panel conversation. Thank you so much. A round of applause for Mr. Johnny Baxter and Mr. Igboje Aigimokwede. There is a QR code that will be displayed on the screen right now, and it's for those who are interested in the site visitations tomorrow. We have a couple of site visitations. Yes, so please scan for you to register and be a part of the visitation. We will be visiting the Dangote Refinery, the Lekki Free Trade Zone, and a couple of other places. And it'll be very nice if you come along. So please scan the QR code. This is a full site visit form. If you are interested in participating and going alongside other delegates, this QR code will be on the screen for about 10 more seconds before I yield the floor and the stage to our moderator to take the next panel conversation and invite our panelists. The QR code is still on if you're interested. The site visitation happens tomorrow. This is the official QR code to register because you have to register to be a part of it. Okay. All right. Perfect. I will yield the floor now to our moderator who will take the conversation on from here. Over to you, Mr. Zaki Cooper.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. We're just going to start the next panel, so if you could kindly take your seats. We're going to talk about global partnerships for growth. I'm going to invite on stage, we have a fabulous panel of 4, and I'm going to invite the panelists on stage, so please welcome them up as I announce them. First up, we have Madame Elsie Atafua from UNDP. She's the resident representative here for UNDP. So if she could come up. Welcome. And next we have Massimo De Luca, the head of corporation.
Edo is shining. Okpeworo is walking. ESC gene kunorioba. Oh ya simye wo. ESC gene kunorioba. Oh ya simye wo. Very quickly. Very, very quickly, we have to tell Edo State that for us to reward APC and the workaholic governor, right, the governor of our state, Senator Monday Okpeworo, for what he has done so far. He has not spent 2 years. He will be 2 years old in November 12th. And one of the things we can reward him with is to make sure we vote APC all the way. What did I say? APC! APC! Edo State, we have virtually all the voters for us to win. In the last primaries, you discovered that for the president, we did so well. If every party member can come with 20 voters, we have won already. We have well over 1.9 million votes in Edo South. And I call it Operation Go TV. Go get out the vote. Call it Operation what? Operation Go TV. Go to all nooks and crannies, your relatives, your children, your brothers and sisters, bring them home. This is no more time for internet voting. This is no more time for what do you call it now? Is it people making noise in the internet? Come and vote. I hope you all have your PVC. Do you have your PVC? Do you have your PVC? We have to vote all our people into offices. The APC will continue to rule the state through your votes. APC will continue to produce our elected members, and APC will change Edo State. Like the former deputy governor said, the flyovers are there, the roads are working, the maintenance agencies are working. Governor Okpeworo is making the money available for roads. All we can reward him with is to fulfill 2.5 million votes for the president in the next election. Do we all agree? Do we all agree? Do we all agree? APC!
Thank you, thank you, thank you. General Charles Aige Ariawe. Without waiting for that time, I wish to invite to the microphone the senatorial woman leader of Edo South to talk to your women. Senatorial woman leader, please. 2 minutes.
APC. 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 Woman talk to woman. When you trade a woman, no man. I greet everybody when they're here today. As we can see, this is the flag off of South campaign for all the local governments in South. As we can see, it's already progressing. You can see women in large numbers here. Have not been so? Why? Because all our candidates, we don't carry all of them put for back. Not be so. Picking when mama put for back, he go fall. None of them go fall in Jesus' name. All our candidates, now number one for them. Boza, Boza, Bo. American Boza for all our candidates. Boza, Boza, Boza men for our original unbeatable governor, Senator Monday Bewolo. Boza, Boza, Boza men. APC all the way for our president, original Senator Ahmed Tinubu. Boza for them. Boza, Boza, Boza man. I greet you all. Oh, now welcome. Oh.
Thank you so much, the senatorial woman leader.
Now Boza, Boza, with the
senatorial district. Thank you.
We met Boza, Boza. All right, we are gradually coming to the highlight of today's gathering. I want to invite again, in a very special way, the chairman of our party, the one and only Comrades Emperor Jarrett Tenebe, to unveil to us the 7 local government chairmanship candidates and their vice. Mr. Chairman, sir.
APC. Yeah, we want to unveil our council chairman candidates and their vice to the party and the public, so that on that day you will give them your vote. Number 1 on the list, Oredo local government, Honorable Gabriel Idusari. And his vice is Akilome Ekina Johnson. Are all the councillor candidates here?
Take it, please, please.
Ego.
Thank you, thank you.
Ego.
Thank you.
Honorable Osaro Eribo is the chairman, and the vice chairman is Isokba Kenny. Are the councillorship candidates here? Oh, there, right? Who are there? Igbo Banga, Honorable Eric Osawa Rusino, and his vice chairman is Honorable Mokaro Petien. Oriowo, Honorable Thompson Osage, and his deputy is Obanwi Felix Uwamagbe. Uwode, Honorable Austin Imafido. The vice chairman is Agye Joseph Samuel.